Most people scroll past these 5 SUVs in 2 seconds flat. That's the whole problem. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that's a massive mistake, and why the cars everyone's ignoring right now might be sitting on dealer lots, begging you to take them home for thousands under sticker. Let's get into it. So here's a question nobody asks at a dinner party. Why does a car that's objectively better than its predecessor sell worse? It sounds backwards. It sounds like it shouldn't be possible. But it's happening right now, in 2026, across 5 completely different SUVs, from 5 completely different brands. And once you see the pattern, you're going to start looking at the entire car market differently. Here's the structure for today. We're going to walk through 5 SUVs that are, right now, getting almost zero attention from buyers, despite genuinely deserving it. For each one, I'm going to tell you exactly why it's getting ignored, what that means for your wallet, and what you're actually getting if you ignore the herd and buy one anyway. Stick around for the last pick, because it might be the single most paradoxical car on sale in America today. A vehicle so good that the company that makes it is literally paying dealers to take it off their hands. Let's start with number 5. Number 5, the Toyota Crown Signia. Quick gut check. Have you ever seen one of these in person? Probably not. And that's wild, because this is a Toyota. Toyotas don't usually have an awareness problem. The RAV4 is a household name. The Highlander is a household name. The Camry has been parked in driveways since before some of you were born. But the Crown Signia, it came out in 2024 as basically the replacement for the Venza, and it has been quietly, almost embarrassingly invisible ever since. Let's talk numbers, because the numbers tell the real story here. In its best month, this thing sold around 2,800 units. Sounds fine, until you remember the RAV4 sells over 30,000 units in a single good month. For the entire year, Crown Signia sales landed around 20,000 units total. The RAV4 cleared 470,000. The Honda CR-V did over 400,000. Even the Tesla Model Y and EV outsold the Crown Signia by more than 10 to 1. So what is this thing? And why should you care? The Crown Signia is a hybrid-only, all-wheel drive mid-size crossover that looks less like an SUV and more like a tall, stylish wagon. And that's a compliment, not a criticism. It's got a 2.5-litre, 4-cylinder hybrid system, putting out 240 horsepower combined, and it is rated at 38 miles per gallon combined. Let that sink in for a second. 38 miles per gallon, with standard all-wheel drive, in a vehicle that can tow 2,700 pounds and swallow up to 68.8 cubic feet of cargo, with the seats folded. Compare that to the Highlander Hybrid, its own showroom sibling, which gets 35 miles per gallon. The Crown Signia is the more efficient vehicle, sitting right there in the same Toyota dealership, and people are walking past it to buy the Highlander anyway, at more than double the sales rate, mostly because nobody's heard of it. The Crown name has barely any brand recognition in America. It quietly disappeared from US showrooms back in the late 50s because the original Crown was underpowered for American highways, and Toyota only brought the nameplate back a few years ago. Most car shoppers don't even know it exists, so it never makes the shortlist. It's not competing on merit, it's losing on awareness. But here's the part that should actually get your attention. This is still a Toyota hybrid system. JD Power gives it an 80 out of 100 score for quality and reliability, putting it right up there with vehicles like the Subaru Outback, the Honda Passport, and the Jeep Grand Cherokee, except this one comes backed by an 8-year, 100,000-mile hybrid system warranty and a 10-year, 150,000-mile hybrid battery warranty. Reviewers have called it the easiest Toyota SUV to overlook, and also one of the smartest ones Toyota currently builds. Estimated annual upkeep costs sit right around $2,000, which is shockingly low for anything wearing a near-luxury interior. Inside, this is where the Crown Signia really separates itself. The cabin quality is noticeably a step above the RAV4 and even the Highlander. Soft-touch materials, a clean digital cockpit, a 12.3-inch touchscreen, and that long, low wagon-like cargo floor that swallows skis, golf clubs, or oversized luggage without a fight. People who've driven it keep using the word Lexus without being asked to. Starting price sits around $44,490, which is genuinely expensive for what looks like a mainstream Toyota. And that price tag is probably the second reason it's not selling. But here's the angle. Because almost nobody's buying it, dealers are sitting on inventory, which means there's real room to negotiate. You are not fighting 8 other buyers for the one in stock. You're often the only person who's asked about it all week. The Mazda CX-30. This one's a strange case because the CX-30 isn't a bad seller overall, it's a collapsing seller, and the collapse is almost entirely artificial. Through the first 4 months of 2026, CX-30 sales are down 56% year over year. 56%. That's not a slow decline, that's a cliff. In April alone, Mazda only moved a little over 4,000 of them. A 35% drop from the same month the year before. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't a story about the car being bad. Mazda has openly told reporters that the CX-30 is built in Mexico, and the company deliberately throttled back production to manage tariff exposure and shift buyers toward the CX-50, which is built domestically in Alabama and dodges those import costs entirely. In other words, Mazda is quietly starving its own small SUV of inventory to nudge you toward a different one. The demand for the CX-30 didn't evaporate, the supply did, on purpose, which makes this an unusually good moment to actually go looking for one, because what you're getting hasn't changed one bit. The CX-30 is widely considered the best driving subcompact SUV you can buy. Standard all-wheel drive across the entire lineup. No upcharge, no separate trim gymnastics, it's just there. The base engine is a 2.5-litre 4-cylinder, making 186 horsepower. And if you step up to the turbo, you're looking at up to 250 horsepower on premium fuel, with a 0 to 60 time of around 6.4, which is genuinely quick for something this size. Reviewers consistently call it the driver's pick in this segment. Confident in bad weather, fun on a back road, and finished inside like something that costs $10,000 more than it does. The interior is the real shocker here. Reviewers keep describing the cabin as a class up, tight panel gaps, real switchgear, a thoughtfully designed cockpit instead of the usual subcompact SUV plastic fest. Mazda's owner reliability reputation continues to track right alongside Toyota's in independent surveys. And CX-30 owners on forums and review sites consistently use words like trouble-free and bulletproof when describing years of ownership. The trade-offs are real, and I'm not going to pretend they're not. The back seat is tight, cargo space trails the segment, and Mazda's signature control knob infotainment system takes some getting used to if you're coming from a touchscreen-first car. But if you're someone who actually enjoys driving, who wants real winter-ready grip, without paying an all-wheel drive tax, and who values an interior that doesn't feel like a rental car. This is, right now, one of the most artificially discounted feeling SUVs on the market because Mazda itself decided you shouldn't be buying it. Number 3. The Mitsubishi Outlander. This one is genuinely one of the strangest sales stories in the entire industry right now, and almost nobody's talking about it. In the first quarter of 2026, sales of the standard Outlander dropped 43.5% year over year. At the same time, and this is the part that should make your head spin, sales of the smaller, way older, way less capable Outlander Sport jumped nearly 75%. We are talking about a 16-year-old design, the Outlander Sport, that's had 3 facelifts since 2010, suddenly outselling its own, much newer, much better equipped sibling by a wide margin. Car buyers, it turns out, don't always follow logic, and in this case that illogic is creating an opportunity. So what is the actual Outlander, the one nobody's buying right now, and why does it deserve a second look? This is the least expensive 3-row SUV currently sold in America, with a starting price of $29,995. Let that be the headline, because almost nothing else on sale gives you a third row, even a small one, for under 30 grand. For 2026, it picked up a new turbocharged 1.5-litre mild hybrid powertrain putting down 174 horsepower and 206 pound-feet of torque, a meaningful torque bump over last year, even if peak horsepower dipped slightly. And if you want a genuinely impressive plug-in hybrid version, Mitsubishi just gave the Outlander PHEV a mid-cycle update, boosting it to 297 combined horsepower with up to 72 kilometers, about 45 miles, of pure electric range, a real jump from the previous 61. Reliability is where this one quietly wins. Mitsubishi backs the Outlander with a 10-year, 160,000-mile powertrain warranty, among the longest in the entire industry, and J.D. Power has scored Outlander quality and reliability as high as 80 out of 100, putting it solidly above many rivals people consider safer picks. Owners consistently praise the cabin, which multiple reviewers have described as feeling posher inside than some genuine luxury SUVs parked next to it in the same lot. I want to be straight with you about the trade-offs, because a good script doesn't just sell you, it tells you the truth. The new mild hybrid engine has drawn some criticism for sounding a bit noisy when cold and for leaning on a CVT transmission that some reviewers describe as droning under hard acceleration. The third row is genuinely tiny, fine for small kids or a pet, basically unusable for adults on anything but the shortest trip. And Mitsubishi's US dealer network has been shrinking, down over 50 dealerships since 2019. Which can occasionally make service appointments and parts availability a longer wait than you'd get from a Toyota or Honda store. But here's the bottom line. You are looking at the cheapest three-row SUV in America, backed by one of the longest powertrain warranties in the business, with a fresh plug-in hybrid option offering serious electric-only range. And right now, the broader market is so distracted by an aging compact crossover from the same brand that the actual flagship is sitting there, nearly ignored. Number 2, the Nissan Murano. This is hands down one of the most fascinating right car, wrong outcome stories in the entire 2026 automotive landscape, and I genuinely think it deserves to be famous. Nissan completely redesigned the Murano for the 2025 model year, a full, ground-up overhaul after the previous generation had been left basically untouched for almost a decade. They gave it a brand new 2.0-litre variable compression turbo 4-cylinder, making 241 horsepower, paired to a smooth 9-speed automatic instead of the old CVT. They added dual 12.3-inch displays, available Google built-in connectivity, ventilated and massaging front seats, and an interior that multiple outlets described as feeling like a legitimate step into near-luxury territory. The IIHS handed it a Top Safety Pick Plus award. By almost every measure that matters, Nissan did everything right, and then almost nobody bought it. Here's the gut punch detail. First quarter sales were actually up 84% year-over-year, which sounds incredible until you realize that percentage is measured against an old model that was barely selling at all. Even with that jump, Nissan ended up with more than 5 months' worth of unsold Murano inventory sitting on dealer lots, a 15% increase from already bloated levels just 1 month earlier. The response from Nissan was almost unheard of. The company started paying dealers cash incentives just to take Muranos off their hands, and reportedly paused work on an already planned refresh because the current car simply wasn't moving. So why did a genuinely improved, redesigned, award-winning SUV become a financial headache for its own manufacturer? Timing and category, mostly. The appetite for a two-row, gas-only, $40,000 plus mid-size crossover has been quietly shrinking for years. Buyers in this exact price range are increasingly choosing either a three-row family hauler for barely more money, a more rugged-looking compact crossover, or, increasingly, something with a hybrid badge on the back. The Murano doesn't offer a hybrid option at all, while category leaders like the Honda CR-V are pulling over half their total sales from hybrid trims alone. Nissan built a genuinely excellent gas-only mid-size crossover and released it directly into a market that stopped wanting exactly that combination, which is exactly why this is your opportunity. Independent reviewers found real things to like here. A comfortable, just right, ride height that's easy to get in and out of, a cabin loaded with thoughtful details like ambient lighting and padded surfaces, and a 5-star overall NHTSA safety rating. Dealers are openly offering 0% financing for qualified buyers, plus negotiated discounts that some owners report landing in the $7,000 range off sticker. One owner on a major review site described getting a $44,000 Murano down to $36,500, purely because Nissan needed it gone. To be fair, this isn't a perfect car. Independent testers found the transmission shifts a little rough at low speeds. Fuel economy landed around 21 miles per gallon overall, which is no better than the old V6 model it replaced, and the handling has been called competent but unremarkable rather than exciting. This is not a car for someone chasing driving thrills, but if you want a genuinely redesigned, well-equipped, top safety-rated mid-size crossover, and you're comfortable being the buyer who benefits from a company's inventory crisis instead of getting punished by it. This is right now one of the single best negotiating positions in the entire new car market. And finally, number 1, the Buick Envision. I'm putting this one at the top because it might be the single most under the radar, genuinely good SUV being sold by an American brand right now. And most people don't even think of Buick as a brand making genuinely good SUVs anymore. That's exactly the problem. The Envision is a compact luxury-leaning SUV that comes standard, every single trim, no exceptions, with all-wheel drive. Not optional, not a trim-locked feature you have to hunt for. Standard. It's powered by a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder, making 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, paired with a smooth 9-speed automatic, and it starts at right around $42,895. Here's the comparison that should actually catch your attention. This is roughly the same footprint and roughly the same price bracket as a Honda CR-V or a loaded Mazda CX-50, but the Envision throws in a 30-inch ultra-wide diagonal display, Google built-in for navigation and voice assistance, and something Buick calls quiet tuning, an active noise cancellation system that multiple owners independently describe, completely unprompted, as making it the quietest car I've ever owned. On the top Avenir trim, you're getting massaging front seats, ventilated seating, heated rear seats, and a panoramic moonroof, features you'd normally expect to pay BMW X3 or Mercedes GLC money to get. And here's the reliability piece that genuinely surprises people. Buick currently sits as JD Power's #1 ranked mainstream brand for dependability, ahead of Toyota, ahead of Honda. The current generation Envision, which has been on sale since 2021, has shaken off the early teething issues that plagued the first couple of model years and now earns consistently strong reliability marks. Kelley Blue Book owner ratings sit at 4.3 out of 5 stars, with the vast majority of owners saying they'd recommend it to a friend. Now, I want to be balanced here, because not every review has been glowing. Consumer feedback does flag some inconsistency. A handful of owners have reported transmission hiccups or battery issues on certain examples, and a few long-distance drivers have complained about more road noise on the highway than they expected, especially compared to that quiet tuning marketing promise. It's also genuinely more expensive than a base CR-V or RAV4, so you are paying a real premium for the badge and the tech, even if that premium undercuts true luxury brands by $10,000 or $15,000. But step back and look at the actual position this car occupies. Standard all-wheel drive, a genuinely upscale cabin, the #1 dependability ranking among mainstream brands, and a price that sits meaningfully below comparable BMWs, Mercedes, and Audis, and almost nobody cross-shops it. It rarely makes anyone's shortlist, mostly because of decades of outdated assumptions about what a Buick is, which means if you walk into a Buick dealership right now, you are very likely the only shopper that salesperson has talked to all week who's even considered this car as a real alternative to the obvious German options. And that kind of leverage almost never exists anywhere else in this price range. That's the list. 5 SUVs, 5 completely different reasons for getting ignored. Bad brand awareness, deliberate supply throttling, an aging sibling stealing the spotlight, brutal timing in a shifting market, and decades of outdated brand perception. None of these are bad cars. Every single one of them is getting buried by something that has nothing to do with how good they actually are. If there's one thing I want you to walk away with, it's this. The most popular car in a segment is rarely the smartest financial decision. It's just the path of least resistance. The real value, the real negotiating leverage, almost always lives one tier down, in the SUV nobody's asking about. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, you know what to do. Like it, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.